Hey, what's happening? Tim from the NBAA here. We wanted to say thanks to everyone who came out to McDowell Meltdown last weekend. We are already on our way to race number 2 at Estrella. Race number 2 is presented by Trek West Phoenix and had a couple important notes to go over. So there is going to be a running race out there the weekend of January 17th and 18th. And so the comp track will be closed. And really, that's Friday afternoon, late afternoon into Saturday. And then the runners will be finishing up some of them will be finishing up Sunday morning. So Comtrack's closed out of Estrella this weekend. Just keep that in mind. The GPS files for all of the race courses are on the race page for Estrella on the NBA website. So you can download those, go out and ride them. The course is very easy to follow. There's signage out there in the park and at the Comtrack. So very easy to follow to go ride on your own. We'll be marking the course next week ahead of the race next weekend. Race age. So it's always a bit confusing when we have a series like this versus a one-day race. When we have a series, the race age, the category that you should be in, is the age that you turn this year. So if you're currently 16, but you turn 17 this year in 2026, then you should be racing in the 17 to 18 category, even if you're currently 16. Because we have multiple events over the course of the winter and spring, everyone's going to be turning, an age older at different times throughout the year. Some of you have already turned, you already had your birthday, and some will be having your birthday over the course of the season. Some will be at the end of the year. So the way that USA Cycling and a lot of other race organizations structure it is the age you turn this year is your race age for the series. So if you're currently 39, but you turned 40 this year, then you should be racing with the 40 to 49 age group. For those of you that registered for the entire series and got a plastic series number plate, don't forget to bring that to Estrella. You'll need that number plate for the whole series, so make sure to just leave it in your truck, and then it's already there, ready to go, and you won't forget it for the race. Volunteer requirements. So for those that are in the running for the series overall, we've always asked, it's always been a big part of the NBAA to give back and be involved in some way. And so one of the things that we've always asked participants to do is to volunteer 5 hours over the course of the season. That could be volunteering at a race for a couple of hours, set up, tear down. There's all kinds of different, short 1 to 2 hour assignments throughout the day. Those are also on the race page for Estrella on the website. You could go out and do trail work either at an official trail work day or on your own trails. And so to get 5 hours of volunteering over the course of the season is what we ask for. And on the NBA website at the top under volunteer, you can sign up for a volunteer slot, or you can log your hours. So if you do volunteer at an event, after the event is over, go on the website, click volunteer, submit my hours, and you can type in, McDowell, 2 hours doing leg marking, and then we have your hours. We used to have everyone log them on the at the race, but it just got too hard to read people's handwriting. So it's easier to just have you log them after the race is over. And then the last thing we had some questions about at McDowell. So for marathon riders, we typically have courses set up where you're doing multiple laps. We can't, in most cases, we don't have an option to do one giant 40-mile loop. So at Estrella, for example, you're going to go out, and the race course is structured to be one red loop and then 2 black loops to give you right around 43 miles. And that would be the kind of the structured course. Now, we have a time cutoff since we have all ages and abilities in the marathon category, and from a medical perspective to keep track of everyone, we have a 3.5 hour time cutoff, which means you can go out, you do your red loop, and then you do your 2 black loops. If you, let's say you get a flat and you're out on your very first red loop, and it takes you 2 hours to fix your flat, and you hike back in, and so by the time you cross the finish line after you've ridden that first red loop, if it's after 3.5 hours, you are now past the cutoff. You don't have to go out and do the 2 black loops. You're not DQ'd. It's not a DNF. Your time will just be counted for that first red loop. So if you go out and do the red loop, and then you do your first black loop, and you come through the finish line, and it's now been 4 hours since the race went off, you don't have to go out and do that second black loop. And that second black loop won't actually count because you're past the cutoff. So if you do your first red loop, and then your second loop, which is a black loop, and then your third loop, which is a black loop, as long as you go out before the 3.5 hour cutoff, so as long as you go out for that last loop before the 3.5 hour cutoff, then you'll get all 3 loops completed. If you do 1 red loop and then you call it quits for the day, and if I'm putzing along behind you and I do the red loop slower than you, but I still have time, and so I go out and do at least 1 of my black loops, I've ridden a further distance, even though my red loop was shorter. I continued on before the cutoff, and so my result is going to be ahead of yours, even though your red lap time is faster than mine. So that's always a little confusing with marathon. Some races, like we've done out at White Tanks and out at Havasu, we just, it's just 1 course of as many laps as you can do with a cap. So Havasu, we've typically capped it at 4 laps. So the most laps you need to do is 4, but you have 3.5 hours to do as many, to do those 4 laps. And if you cross the finish, if you do laps 1, laps 2, laps 3, and you're going out for that 4th lap, and the clock reads 3 hours and 29 minutes, you're good to go. You have made it before the cutoff of 3.5 hours, so you can go out for your last lap. So that way, it kind of, the idea is to keep everyone's times between 3 and 4 hours. If we made everyone do all 43 miles, there's going to be, some riders who are, might be taking 6 hours, and other riders who might be taking 3 hours. So this way, it kind of gives everybody a similar time, even though the distances might be a little bit different. So if you have questions, you can drop them in the questions below, but that's how the marathon works. And we look forward to seeing everyone next weekend, January 24th, out at Estrella.